Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm excited to be able to bring you lots of good information about how you can be more successful this year. The title of today's presentation is More Marketing and Less Selling. I know it's often very frustrating when we feel like we're in a situation where you're pushing whatever you have to offer, or the potential prospect or client or customer is putting up resistance. So I'm going to talk to you about a lot of research that's been done to help people be more successful, particularly in the science, in the area of science, and in commercializing your science and in bringing it to the marketplace and in communicating to the end users that may want to utilize what you have to offer in the area of scientific discovery, whether it be life sciences or healthcare. So again, thank you for coming, and if you do have any questions as I go along, just put them in the chat box and I will answer them for you. We will have a chance, hopefully, for questions at the end, and also there will be a survey at the end that we would love you to fill out to give us feedback on what you'd like to see in future presentations. So with no further ado, I'm going to ask you to think about a few questions at first, and that is, are you trying to unlock your value in the marketplace? And what I mean by that is it your responsibility to position your company or your organization as a market leader or as a thought leader? And sometimes when I give a similar presentation live, not everyone in the room actually raises their hand because it's not their job to position their company or their organization as a thought leader. But I'd also like you to think about whether or not it's your job to position yourself as a market leader or a thought leader. And oftentimes I get very tentatively raised hands where people say, well, sort of, maybe, it might be me. And then I really let you know that absolutely, positively, 100%, 1,000%, you must be thinking about positioning yourself as a market leader or a thought leader. And the reason is because in your job, you want your colleagues that you work with, and you want your boss, and you want the upper management to see you as someone driving things forward. You also want your next job or opportunity, and that may come to you by you being perceived in the marketplace as a market leader or a thought leader. And we all want something, even if it's just, I want to be the best soccer coach in the local soccer, for my kids' soccer team. So somewhere in your life, I'm sure you want to be positioned as a market leader or as a thought leader. So this is your opportunity to think about all those pieces of your life or the company that you work for and decide how you can be more successful as you move forward in those areas. A lot of times people are trying to generate leads and grow sales. So that comes pretty much after you're positioned as a market leader or a thought leader. So I'm going to explain to you some of the literature on that as well. But sometimes people who are listening to this presentation, they're thinking about that they really don't yet understand what the market wants or what their customers want, and they need to better define that and get a better handle on it. So we're going to talk about that today as well, too. And then sometimes people are not trying to actually sell anything, but they're just trying to encourage others to use their ideas or use their technology. So you may be an academic and maybe you're publishing and you want other people to know about what you've published and you want to share that with them and you want them to try it out and repeat your experiments. So it's really important to think about that as well. So whether you're listening to today's presentation about your organization in relationship to making your organization more successful or making yourself personally more successful, I want you to take lots of value from this presentation because I want you to understand how you can be more successful across the board. So our goal at Cambridge Health Tech Associates is to really transform science into commercial success. So whether your success is in your science is in life sciences or in the area of healthcare, whether you're positioning yourself to help out people in drug discovery and development, or if you're positioning yourself to be more successful with physicians or nurses or pharmacists, all of these tips and tricks that I'm going to tell you about will apply. So really what we're talking about today is how you can do less selling by doing more marketing and then truly be able to find the people who are most interested in what you have to offer. Sometimes I call it the raise your hand form of marketing and selling, whereas if you're doing the things right to get the world to know that you are a thought leader and an expert and an authority in your area, then the people who want you will call you, and it won't be you calling them and hounding them, it'll be them finding you. So we offer services in 3 different areas to help you accomplish this. I'm going to give you a brief overview of that and then get into some research that's been published in this area to help you be more successful. So we have services consulting and market research. So things like understanding the market potential, who your customers are, whether you should go after the vice president or the bench scientist, whether you should go after the physician or the nurse. We also write business plans for you, do strategic plans, marketing plans, communication plans, even plans to help you go after investors and be more successful at raising capital. So that's what I call phase 1, the thinking phase. Sorry, I think there's just someone who needs to mute their phone. If your phone is not on mute, if you could put it on mute, that would be great, because I think we're getting a little bit of background noise. But thank you for whoever did that, for putting your phone on mute. Thanks. So anyway, the second area that we offer services to help you be more successful commercially with your science is in technology evaluations. And the third area is in marketing and communications and in education. And this will really be the focus of today's presentation. And if someone has just asked me a question, will this presentation be available later for people to listen to and watch? Yes, we will post it later as well. So thanks for that question. So a little bit more about ourselves. We are a sister company to Cambridge Health Tech Institute, which is a conference company. Cambridge Health Tech Institute has been around for about 20 years doing conferences in life sciences. So you probably have attended one of their conferences or know about them from that perspective. But really this partnership gives us sort of an inside track to the trends and issues in the marketplace and helps us better research things for you, because we have an intimate relationship with the speakers, the attendees, and everyone who's been part of those conferences over the last while. It also gives us a database of over 900,000 individuals from around the world, all in life sciences, whether it be academics, government, labs, biotech, pharma, hospitals, venture capitalists, of course, technology vendors, technology suppliers of either services or actual technology that people can bring in, or things that can be utilized by physicians, nurses, pharmacists, et cetera. So we have a long-standing history of technology evaluations and bringing new science to the marketplace, and we're really excited about the changes that we've made in the last year for Cambridge Health Tech Associates to help you across the full spectrum of marketing what you have to offer and making yourself more successful with your science in the marketplace. So if you are attending today's webinar because you attended our conference in California recently, Pep Talk, then you do qualify for a special offer. So at the end of this webinar, there will be a survey for you to fill out, and then you'll qualify to get that special offer that we gave you at the conference. So just wanted to cover that one off real quick. So how can you utilize consulting and market research to be more successful? So as I mentioned before, you might want to go out there and figure out, how many potential customers exist. What is the level of their knowledge about my area of science? What is their expertise? Do I need to teach them about what I have to offer, or do I need to just tell them how I'm different than the competitors that they're already using? So this is an area that's really important and that can really make you be successful if you've quite clearly targeted who your proper customers are, got them to listen to your message, and have them understand what you're trying to offer. So when we help clients in this area, it could be doing some market research for them. It could be doing one-on-one discussions with potential prospects or customers. There's all sorts of different ways to look at this so that you can be successful and that you can understand who are the proper customers for you to go after. So this is our consulting and market research area. Why do people use consulting services? Maybe you just need a deep dive into the industry and you need to better understand what everyone is thinking about, where the current trends are, what the issues are, what are people's pain points, what's blocking them from going forward and using what the science is that you have to offer. But you might also need something like the experience and knowledge that we can bring. We have people on our team who have worked in the industry helping move things forward, on the inside, and they understand how the decisions are made in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry and with healthcare practitioners across the board. So you can access our database of expanded contacts and have us help you understand really what's important to the different customers that you might want to go after. Just a little bit about the expertise on our team. I always like to highlight Dr. Ernie Bush because he has 30 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry, most recently with Roche Pharmaceuticals, making decisions at the senior level as to what's going to go forward and how to do drug discovery and development. So he's a great person to have on our team. Additionally, we have Dr. Kevin Davis. Kevin actually wrote the book, you could say, on genomics, in that he wrote most recently the $1,000 genome. And for those of you who are in this area, you'll find that we just passed that mark. So Kevin wrote this book a couple of years ago. It's a fabulous read. But additionally, Kevin was also the first editor of the first spinoff of Nature magazine. So the first spinoff of Nature magazine was Nature Genetics, and Kevin was the editor of that magazine as well. So lots of extensive experience both in the pharmaceutical industry and in genomics, genetics, and personalized medicine, bioinformatics, et cetera, et cetera. We have a number of other experts on our team, which I just highlighted two today. But for myself, basically, I've worked both in the industry and worked servicing the industry and helping companies be more successful in commercializing their technologies. And then another person just to highlight on our team is Tony Flynn, who is not just great at bringing new products and services to market, but also creating new categories and having people understand that those categories are important. And also he has extensive experience in taking companies from a non-commercial environment, maybe an academic environment, all the way through IPO and successful entry into the marketplace. So one other area I want to highlight for you just before we get into the research that I wanted to share with you today is the area of technology evaluations. In science, it's really, really critical that people actually try out what you have to offer. And the best way for them to do that is to not just read about it, but to actually use it in a controlled environment. So we do that. We have a number of processes for doing that and a number of methods where we look at what is the industry adopting from a technology perspective and what are they interested in looking at. So every year we conduct an annual survey where we ask the industry, what did you adopt last year? What are you looking at this year? What are your plans for next year? And what have you abandoned? So it's a great way for you to understand the trends that are going on in the industry and better know where your technology or your service fits in with their needs. We also have a technology evaluation consortium. This is a group of between 10 and 15 pharmaceutical companies who have been coming together for the last nearly 10 years now, and they've been evaluating new technologies on an annual basis. They have done over 25 technology evaluations, and we like to bring them between 4 to 6 new technologies to actually try out and utilize every single year. This is a fabulous opportunity, as this book, if you're familiar with it, Crossing the Chasm, talks about, which is you might be able to get those early adopters, but how do you get the vast majority to actually use your technology? And in the industry, we know it's so very important to be careful with the new technologies that we bring on, because the end result of the industry's work is, whether it be a pharmaceutical or a diagnostic or a device, is really that you could harm a patient or you could kill a patient. So no one in the industry, when it comes to life sciences and healthcare, is going to do something really, really quickly. So this process of getting a group of users, subject matter experts, to actually try out your science and your technology and figure out where it fits in their armamentarium is so critical to the success of crossing that chasm that, as I said, even long before I joined the organization, there was a number of people with great foresight who worked with the industry, because the industry actually asked us to put this together because they said it's just too difficult for us to evaluate all these new technologies, and we want a way to screen these more efficiently and more effectively. So this is something that I'll actually be talking about in a future webinar, and it is a very fascinating program that we have. So moving to the research on how we can help you, or how you can help yourself do less, let's call it cold call selling, and less selling and more marketing, and just really in the end have customers calling you and asking for your services. So we're going to tell you about how the research that's out there today supports this, and I'm sure you'll see that it makes sense and how you can be more successful at commercializing what you have from a scientific perspective. So the first thing to think about in selling versus marketing is, raise your hand really high if you like cold calling. And I'm sure that all of you who are listening to this, no one has raised their hand really high. No one likes the rejection that comes of cold calling, or people also talk about telemarketing and things like that. So how can you get around the fact of putting yourself basically in a point of weakness where you're saying to the person, please, please listen to my message, please return my phone call, please give me 5 minutes of your time for me to tell you how great my science is. How can you turn that around and have them calling you saying, hey, I'm interested in learning more? If you're not on mute, if you could just put your phone on mute, that would be really great. So we're going to talk about how you can better position yourself in the marketplace and more effectively employ whatever marketing efforts you're doing, and therefore leading to a decrease in selling like cold calling and other outbound sales activities like telemarketing, et cetera. So we want to get you to a place where you're not cold calling, but the customers are calling you. So the new reality in today's business is something that we call scientific-based marketing. So scientific-based marketing will help you absolutely outperform your competition no matter what you're offering in the marketplace. So even if you're selling something that's not science, if you're selling, something to the consumer marketplace, you will be more successful if you tell them the whys and wherefores and hows of what your new product has to offer. But really, what we want to have you think about is this is all a science of how to get customers, how to keep customers, and how to get customers to buy from you without you feeling like you're selling to them. Everyone who's out there has some wants. Everyone who's out there has some needs. But we want you to be positioned as the must-have solution to address those wants and those needs from your prospective customers or your current clients. So it's really important to think about this and see how you can move down this path so that the phone is ringing off the hook or the emails are coming in from that perspective. The other thing, though, to think about in today's marketplace, and I'm going to show you some information about this as well, is you need to combine this scientific-based marketing with relationship-based marketing. No one buys from you just because of your great science. They also need to trust you. They need to think that you're credible. They need to understand what you have to offer. So you really need to go beyond that old school traditional marketing and realize, again, as well, it's not just social media. It's what we call relationship-based marketing so that you can grow a community of supporters who recommend you to others, who are willing to give you a reference, who are willing to get up on their own and say how great your product is and how great your service is. So these are some of the things to think about. So in scientific-based marketing, this is the first area I'm going to cover. I'm going to show you some of the research available out there today. You know that if your prospects think about you, you want them to know, to think that you're credible. You want them to understand that you are trustworthy. We want them to feel that you're knowledgeable, that you're reliable, that you're an expert. So you need to be able to answer yes to all these questions, that you are credible, trustworthy, knowledgeable, reliable, that you're an expert, and perhaps even more. And this is what will really help your customers feel comfortable with you and feel like they can move on in building that relationship with you because they understand what you have to offer and they see you as an expert. So if we bridge that to social media, we all have heard of things like, people liking a post or liking a comment. So liking is fine, but we want to move everyone to buying, of course. And then even better, we want them to feel so great about you and your science and your technology that we want them to share the news about how terrific you are, be that referral for you, be that reference for you. So that's where we're headed, to combine the scientific-based marketing approach with the relationship-based marketing approach so that you can be more effective and get people to actually be endorsements for you. So it's really key to be seen as an expert and as an authority figure. We all know that the concept of the importance of authority is as old as kind of humanity itself. And how you're perceived affects the authority that you have. And we all know that, again, people follow authority figures, oftentimes whether they want to or not. If you can look back into history, you'll see lots of examples where people have followed leaders that they really, in retrospect, shouldn't have followed. They'll believe concepts or mandates that maybe at first were not politically correct and then became politically correct. So that whole idea of being able to influence and change people is really, really important. And in fact, one of the most notable studies of authority was a Yale University study called the Milgram experiment, which was actually described way back in 1963 in the Journal of Abnormal and Social Psychology, in an article published by an author from that same name. And basically, what he was studying was why in some of the wars that had happened prior to that, people would follow their leader and do things that normally they would not have done if they hadn't been under the spell of someone with authority and power. So we can all see examples of that where, you know, it used to be very fashionable to smoke many, many years ago, and now smoking has become unfashionable. So it's putting people in the position of understanding what's right and what's wrong, but then also supporting that with authority figures. So there's lots of examples I'm sure that you can think of in your own life. So there's kind of 3 rules to having authority and expertise. The first one is, if you are a celebrity or you have fame, you can say things like Tom Cruise here, and people will just listen to you and follow you and copy you because they believe in you. Or if you don't like Tom Cruise, maybe you won't do what he says just because you don't like him. But the power of his shadow is sort of like he resides so far above us in everyone's knowledge of him in the world that his shadow falls so long on everyone else, on all of us, and it has an influence over all of us. So if you can have celebrity or fame, that's probably one of your quickest ways to getting to be perceived as having authority or expertise and being someone that people should look up to. But that's not the case for everyone. You could also go to some other people who have authority and fame. So here is, as an example, pictures of 3 of the Nobel laureate prize winners in physiology or medicine in 2013. And maybe one of them is supporting your science or your technology. So it's another way to look at celebrity or fame and kind of use that to position yourself as having authority and expertise. But a lot of us just don't have that opportunity. We, don't want Tom Cruise as our spokesman, and maybe the Nobel laureates don't really know anything about our science or technology. So another way that people can have authority or expertise is to basically be the #1 product or service. So something like Coca-Cola. If you have that brand name, you're sort of away to the races, but you have to keep fighting the battle of the other ones that are chipping at your heels. You could also be a more recent phenomenon than Coca-Cola. You could be someone like Apple. But again, you have to look at the next big guy or little guy coming right in behind you and make sure you constantly support your position with new products and new introductions. And we all know the story probably of how Apple, wasn't doing so well and then came back with new products like the iPhone and things like that that have just, helped turn them around. So you have to constantly innovate and have things new on the marketplace. But probably the best thing that underlines both of these examples, whether it be celebrity or fame or having a #1 product or service, is what we call being an authority or being an author. And in fact, the word authority, which is a very, very old word, actually has the word author in it. So another way for you to be well known in the marketplace is to get published. So as scientists, you all know this, but it's difficult to have 20 articles in Nature magazine, or even to have 1 article in Nature magazine. So we're going to take the concept of authority and the concept of being an author and make it accessible to everyone, accessible to you so that you can take your science and you can have success in commercializing it by doing things that are close to being an official author, but give your audience the information they need to see you as an authority, to see you as having expertise, and to see you as being well known in the marketplace. So a couple of other people to think about is you probably have heard of this gentleman here, the management genius Peter Drucker. What he preaches is that the aim of marketing is to make selling superfluous. In other words, the goal of marketing is to make a product, a service, or a company so relevant and so compelling that it literally sells itself. So that's the case of, if you go into a restaurant and they say, what would you like to drink? You don't really oftentimes say, I'd like a Pepsi. You probably say, I'd like a Coke, even though a Coke or a Pepsi would be just as fine. So that's where we want to get you to. We want to get you to be as commonplace as Coke, as commonplace as Kleenex or Q-tips or something like that, something that's common that people will just use the brand name as the generic definition for what they're looking for. And that's what Peter Drucker is really talking about. So how to have authority and expertise? Well, Bain & Company recently did a study asking company executives if they agreed with the statement, our company is highly differentiated. So when you think about your science, are you the one standing out? Does everyone know that you're really different? Well, in this example, across the board, 80%, or the people surveyed said 80% of the time, yes, my company is highly differentiated. Well, luckily, they went and flipped that question and asked their customers as well. And what they found was that, unfortunately, only 8% of customers agreed with those companies. And this is what's called a confirmation bias in action. So you, in your own company, you believe you're very different from everyone else. But you overlook the very foundation of how to be prosperous and profitable because you believe that your customers are on the same page as you. But your customers are often not on the same page as you. And the reason is because you need to make sure you have a clear strategy, something that differentiates you from someone else, but then you also need to have a consistent presence, a consistently communicated message that you have authority. You need to have authorship. You need to have many things going in front of your clients or your prospects and your customers saying that, yes, I'm the one that stands out, I'm the one that's different, I'm the one that you should consider as the expert, as the authority in this area. And really, this is the way today to stand out in the marketplace, to take those hints that we get from people having celebrity, being number one, and being published in major journals, and bring that down to a way that's accessible to everyone so that you can be a market leader. So remember I asked you before these questions about being a market leader or a thought leader, so let's look at some of the ways that you can do that. So if you're thinking about the scientific-based marketing, some of the ways you can do that or should be in the following areas. So these are the goals that you should be considering. Are you trying to stay top of mind and keep your prospects engaged? Are you trying to educate, to provide relevant information, to prepare your customers for purchase, and or inform them of your varied offerings? So many times I find when talking with our clients, they have so many services to offer, and each of their customers only knows one or two of those things that they have. So when they start communicating with their customers and telling them, I have A and B, which you know about already, but I also have C, D, E, and F, they get more sales automatically because of the confidence that those companies have in purchasing A and B, automatically flow over to C, D, E, F, G, H, et cetera, et cetera. So informing your customers of the breadth of your offering is one of the biggest challenges in trying to sell things in science because it's always so multifaceted. So when you're thinking about what your plans you have in place for this year, think about how you're going to stay top of mind and how you're going to show your prospective customers all the things that you have to offer. You may also want to think about what content you're offering them to re-engage prospects. So maybe you told someone, I was actually speaking to someone this morning from over in Italy actually, and they were saying, well, is it too early for me to maybe tell prospective customers about what I have to offer because I'm not really sure if I'm ready for everything. Well, the customer's not always ready to buy when you're ready to sell. So let's pre-warn them. Let's tell them that you're great. Let's share your CV with them, not in its long form, but in its short form. Let's explain to them that you just recently published a white paper, that you just did a webinar, that you have a podcast, that you have, one case study that you'd like to share with them. So you need to constantly think about re-engaging your prospects so that when they are ready to buy, they remember you. So another thing to think about is, are you either directly or indirectly explaining to your prospects or to your customers what your benefits are, either just sheer benefits or what your benefits are versus the competition? Because you really need to encourage your prospects to switch to you and switch to you away from whatever they're doing now. So you may be a brand new technology, but there's something that someone is doing because they don't know about you today. So how are you going to convince them to make that change, to change their behavior, to change the way they work? Well, that only comes with time. And if you're not constantly in front of them, you're not going to be able to convince them to make those changes. Or what's often the case is, maybe in your field, there's new scientists coming in who have no idea about what you have to offer. So maybe you need to train those new scientists, or maybe you have a new application for your science that no one knows about, so you need to train people about a new area. So these are all the scientific things to think about, and how do you put these into your communication plans, how do you put these into your education plans, into what you're doing over the next couple of years so that you have these goals clearly in mind. And these are very common across all kinds of industries, but I'm sharing them with you because as scientists, we don't always think about these things. We don't always consider all these different elements about how and when and where and what to say to our customers and our prospects. Oh, and the last thing is special offers or events. So are you doing a webinar and you want to make sure people know about it? So this is another way to communicate with them and see you as a thought leader. Are you going to be going to a conference and you want to meet up with people or you want them to come to your booth? So there's always some special offers or events. Maybe you have something that you're now offering at a discount. So these are other ways that you can look at a whole year-long communication plan and what you want to share with your customers so they never forget about you and they remember you when they're ready to purchase. So how can you implement some of these things? Thinking about today, do you have an engaging website that's constantly refreshed and updated with new information, examples, and case studies? Do you have a content strategy? I've mentioned quite a number of these things. Do you have a blog? Do you have any white papers to issue? Do you have an online newsletter? So things that are going to really, truly highlight your expertise, but also provide useful information and insights and teach people something and educate them. We have one, as an example, newsletter we do for one of our clients, and every month we highlight one of their scientists who works at their company. We also highlight one of their offerings, and we highlight, where they're going, where you can talk to them, new white papers they've published, and things like that. So it's a one-stop shop, so to speak, for everything you need to know about their area of science. And it's really helped improve their customers, new customers calling them, old customers using them in new areas. So it's a great way to look at things. And then with the advent of social media, and I'm going to show you some tips and tricks for social media in a couple minutes, you really need to think about, are you sharing news? And it doesn't have to be just your news. It could be news that's published by other people. Are you seen as an expert in sharing information and sharing insights and helping other people learn about what's happening in the marketplace? So these are ways to implement your scientific-based marketing strategy, and I'm going to give you some more examples in a few minutes about how to implement your relationship-based marketing strategy. But what I wanted to do first is I wanted to show you a new program that we launched last fall, which could really catapult you forward in positioning you as having leadership and authority in the marketplace. So we've launched this new program called the Signature Award. And basically what it is you are evaluated either in the area of life sciences, so with the pharmaceutical and biotech industry, or in the healthcare industry with subject matter experts like physicians, nurses, pharmacists, et cetera, so an advisory board of healthcare practitioners. And in the end, after being evaluated, you're rated as either a blockbuster, an upstart, a novel, or an innovator. So a great way to stand out from the crowd and have people understand what you have to offer that's different from everyone else. So just a real quick overview. Basically, to be evaluated for a Signature Award, you submit an application, and then you do a webinar directly to the subject matter experts in the industry, and they rate you on two dimensions, your market readiness and your value to the marketplace. So you get a numerical rating, and that numerical rating places you on a grid. And there's the grid. It's available to scientists both in the academic environment as well as scientists in commercial companies. And in the end, you get to take that ribbon and put it on all your promotional materials, on your website, and share it even with investors and other people like that. The way it works is you do, for a vendor, you do a 30-minute presentation to the industry. They actually rate you. They give you lots of qualitative feedback, which is sort of like a mini market research report. And then I mentioned earlier we have our Technology Evaluation Consortium. One winner in each group will get a free Technology Evaluation Consortium. For the academics, this is again a way for you to help transform your science into commercial success. You get a shorter presentation, but you do get the same rating by the industry and the same qualitative feedback, which would help you get closer to bringing your product to commercial success in the marketplace as well. It's really very exciting, and we've gotten lots and lots of great feedback on it because you get that direct feedback from subject matter experts who are going to be the end users of what you have to offer. It's really also a great way. We've heard from a number of investors that they would absolutely love to see this as a way to better understand what the feedback is from the industry on these new technologies, whether it be healthcare ideas or life science ideas. And also you get an industry-derived designation that sets you apart from the competition. So a great way to show that expertise, to show that you have authority in the marketplace, and to be kind of have that stamp of approval by the end user. As I mentioned before, you get a report. Now the industry decision makers who need to know about you will know what you have to offer, and they'll know it in a very intimate way because they'll both read your application, they will listen to your presentation, and they will go through the process, which is phenomenal, of actually thinking about what you have to offer and seeing how it fits in what they do every day in their lives in healthcare or in life sciences. So the opportunity for the industry, this actually came again from the industry. The industry said to us, we're just not seeing enough new technologies. We want to see more new technologies and be able to evaluate them and compare them and share ideas and understand how best to move forward. So this is a way to help them become more productive and bring things to market on a quicker basis. And it's a great feedback loop between the new science that's out there and the people who will eventually utilize that new science. So we're thrilled to be launching this and have this available, and we look forward to kind of making it happen for everyone as we go forward. So as I said, this is the life sciences part of it brings together pharma and biotech, ourselves and the technology vendor. And then on the healthcare side, if you just look on the left here, we talk to healthcare practitioners, and they are our evaluators. I put on the right-hand side of this screen just a list of all the different categories that we would like people to consider submitting themselves within. So you can see things like drug safety, biomarkers, clinical trial management software, devices, diagnostics. If you want to see this list, you can go to our website. In the lower left-hand corner of our website, or the lower left-hand corner of this slide, is a link to the page on our website where you can find this list and find more information about it. So you can just look at that right there. And if you are interested in applying, you can just submit an application form. You can get that by emailing me, and you submit your payment, and then we do the evaluation over the next 3 months. But now I want to turn to relationship-based marketing, because it's really, really important to not just be scientifically focused, because it's the two pieces of the puzzle which will make you successful. So if we take the scientific-based marketing and combine it with the relationship-based marketing, I want to tell you more about what's happening in the industry today so you can understand why this is so very important. So as you may know, or may or may not know, we actually have 2 online communities, 2 professional communities. One is in the area of drug safety, and the other is in the area of next-generation sequencing and genomics and bioinformatics and personalized information. And these are just 2 examples, just like LinkedIn and LinkedIn groups, of ways that you can communicate with your potential audiences and scientists. So I want you to think about answering this question for a moment. How many groups well, first of all, are you a member of LinkedIn? Second of all, how many groups do you belong to on LinkedIn? And if you only belong to one group on LinkedIn, I would really encourage you to go find more groups to join that fit with your area of science or your area of specialty. So one of the questions I would be asking you if I was seeing you live was, do you know the limit on the number of groups you can join? So think about that, and I'm talking about LinkedIn groups that you can join. So think about that for a second. So the number of groups that you can join on LinkedIn is, the maximum number is 50. So here's your opportunity to have multiple conversations across the board with people who are interested in your area of science and technology. So you can join one of our professional online communities, or you can get involved in something like LinkedIn, and you can make yourself a lot more successful in the marketplace. Because why do professional communities work? So I'm going to show you a Deloitte study in a moment that just talks about this a little bit more. But professional communities allow you to see things like the trends, who are the people out there who are making the decisions, who are the market players, what are their needs, and you also can ask questions and therefore get an idea of what people are thirsty for from a knowledge perspective and understand what's really important out there in the marketplace. So we really encourage you to think about either creating a professional community, and of course we can help you do that, or joining a professional community, or as I said, even joining 1 or 2 LinkedIn groups to be more successful. So why are communities so important? Well, it really allows discussion to happen 24/7, all day, all night, every day of the year. The other thing is you're able to attract and engage customers that you can't meet. So you can't go halfway around the world every week and meet people, but you can definitely talk to people halfway around the world through things like social media and professional communities. The other thing is people have chosen to join those communities. So if I'm interested in soccer and you're interested in flowers, you're going to join a community about flowers, and I may never talk to you about flowers if I'm not interested in flowers. But I'm certainly going to talk to lots of people about soccer if I'm interested in soccer. Well, the same thing applies to you in your areas of science. And the one thing that's really, really interesting that, again, I want you to think about and answer for yourself is how many of you have ever commented on someone else's item that they put on the internet? So if you've commented on someone else's item that they've put on the internet, you're in a very small minority of all the people in the world. Then the next question I want you to ask for yourself is how many of you have ever put any original content on the internet? So you write a little blog, or you create a little post, or you start something. Well, that number is even smaller. So what the rule on the internet is, out of every 100 people, there's a rule called the 90, 9, and 1 rule. And what it is that out of every 100 people, 90 people will read what has been written. But only 9 people will comment on what has been written, and only 1 person will actually write something original. So the opportunity for you is to join a community, participate in online communities or social media, and be one of those 9 people who comment, or jump way to the front of the pack and be one of those 1 people out of every 100, 1 person out of every 100 who actually create something new and unique and original. So that's, again, where we can help you, because we specialize in these areas of either creating online communities or helping you implement and create social media and taking that headache away from you so that you can be seen as a thought leader and you can focus back on your science. Because if you look at this study here, what it clearly shows is that the reason people visit professional online networks and communities and participate in social media is they want access to you. They want access to thought leadership and information I couldn't get anywhere else. So the vast majority of people, 49% agree and 46% strongly agree that the reason why they're going out there on the internet is looking for expertise. So again, a chance for you to be an authority by authoring something small, authoring a blog, a newsletter, a webinar, something that people can get their hands around. So I'm going to quickly take you through this Deloitte study, which again is fabulous in that it really explains to you why this all works. So a couple of years ago, Deloitte did this study, and they called it the tribalization of business. So you can see that I kind of have already talked about different tribes. So I talked about our drug safety community, which is a different tribe of people versus our next generation sequencing and genomics community, which is, again, a totally different tribe. And what they found in this study is that you can achieve transformational change through these communities and social networks if you just do some of your marketing, some of your communication, and some of your education through social media and professional communities. And really the motivations that allow this to work are 3 things. First of all, people want to connect with people. I won't belabor this point because I think it's obvious. But the second point is that people want to help and be helped. So if you go out there and you provide information, people feel good that you are helping them. You also feel good that you're helping other people. So a prime example of that is if I'm walking down the hall and I had tons of books in my arms, I dropped one of them, you probably would help offer to pick that up for me because it would make you feel good to help me out. Maybe even you'd hold the door open for me as I walk through. So that's a natural thing that we can't stop ourselves even from doing. So people want to help and be helped. And being involved in a professional community or in social media or in writing a newsletter or in hosting a webinar is all a way of helping and being helped. But the one that's probably the very most important that came out of their study is this last one. And that is that people operate either in a social framework or in a market framework. So I'll explain to you a market framework first because it's the easiest. A market framework is either you're coming to me trying to sell me something. So to the very beginning of this presentation, I don't want you to sell. I don't want you to be seen as a salesperson saying, buy me, buy me, buy me. Get this today. It's not going to be available tomorrow. You want to instead be in a social framework. A social framework is, hey, I have this information to share with you. And then you're going to share it with Jane, who's going to share it with Bob, who's going to share it with Tom. And because all of those people were sharing, remember I went before from liking to buying to sharing. Once you get to sharing, then it has more credibility, it has more authority. That person isn't biased and isn't trying to push something, they're just trying to share. So the more you can be in a social framework rather than in a market framework, you'll be so much more successful. And this was found in this phenomenal Deloitte study. Deloitte looked at why people use social media and why people use online professional communities. Here's a lot of reasons why they use it. Basically, the bigger the word, the more often people are using it. So you can see people are really trying to amplify their word of mouth. And that's why they're using the social media and things like professional communities. Also to do market research. So these are a lot of things I covered before that have just been validated again in this great Deloitte study. Another thing that the Deloitte study asked is, what are your business objectives for using social media and online communities? And people said, I want to increase my customer loyalty. I want to increase my brand awareness. I want to generate that word of mouth. So again, lots of reasons to use social media and online communities. They also asked, what are the features that most contribute to effectiveness in online communities and social media? Again, the ability to help others, the ability to connect with like-minded people, meaning I'm talking to people in my tribe, my drug safety tribe versus my next generation sequencing tribe, a quality manager for the team, and a community focused around a hot topic or issue. So again, experts bring you things quickly, experts talk to you about the trends, and you want to be perceived as an expert and an authority, and the way you can do that is to author different pieces of information. So the last two things from the Deloitte study was that they found that people reported that they could increase their revenue per customer dramatically by using social media and using online communities and newsletters and webinars and things like that. Why? Again, because you're talking to people who are interested in what you have to say. You're not blasting it out to the world, so when you do talk to these people, it amplifies everything you do. The last takeaway from the Deloitte study is that we need to think about becoming chief community officers, so managing the community of people, the tribe of people that we want to talk to, so they see us as an expert, they see us as an authority, they see us as someone to look up to, and then they trust us, they respect us, they see us as credible, and they use our services, they use our science, they use our products. So the last thing to think about is taking the idea of marketing communications and combining it, combining science-based marketing with relationship-based marketing. And fundamentally, for us at CHA, this is what's in our DNA. This is how we work. We think about both these things for you because our goal is to help you transform your science into commercial success. So the last little piece of information I want to share with you today, I know I'm probably overloading you, but you can listen to this later if you want because it's being recorded, is I want you to think about taking that science and taking that relationship and thinking about how it works now on Google. So we know you want to position either your company or yourself as a thought leader. But in order to do that, you also have to be seen in the Google search engine ranking. So you know when you type in those words and you're looking for, new soccer balls or whatever you're looking for a new flower arrangements. Again, I go to non-science examples because it's easier sometimes. You want to use those opportunities for yourself to be on the first page. You want to build your brand so you can generate leads so people can click through because you're on the first page of Google. And then you want to take those people who come to your website and engage them in future conversations and build a relationship with them. So Google is all about two things. It's the science and the math behind Google, but it's also the science and the content that you place out there on the internet and how you interweave those together to build those relationships. So I'm going to teach you a really quick trick here, and just I think 1 or 2 slides. But first of all, just to convince you of the importance of being aware of optimizing your search engine results. 42% of visitors click on the #1 spot on Google search results. After that, it just goes down the tube, so to speak. But if you can even move from position number 8 to position number 3 on page number 1, you will triple the traffic to your website. And if someone's looking for your category and they don't yet know about you, they don't know you're the expert or the authority in your field, or even if they do, they will be further validated if your stuff is on page number 1. They'll say, wow, they're so important that they're on page number 1. But everyone calls that organic search. But I want to let you know that it's nothing but organic search. There's definitely ways that you can manipulate that, and we call that our triangle of success. So basically, really quickly, I'm going to let you know that you need to make sure every single page of your website is focused on one keyword phrase. So it could be red flowers as one page, blue flowers are another page, pretty flowers is a third page, but every page of your website needs to be about a different topic. And that's where it's optimized, and where there's lots of things that we can do to help you make sure you got all the keywords there, you have all the tricks and the HTML that are optimized so that people find you. But that's not the only thing. Google raises you up in the search engine rankings when you do two other things. When you have traffic to your website and you have people spending a long time on your website. So two simple ways to get traffic to your website is, one, issue a newsletter or an email that has an article that then sends people back to your website, so lots of traffic comes to your website. And the last way, which I won't get into a lot of detail on, but it's called press releases. So every press release that goes out there nowadays is also listed on numerous websites, so for instance, bostonglobe.com. And when someone sees the press release from you on bostonglobe.com and clicks through from that to your website, that again is traffic. So there's lots of things that you can do to optimize yourself in search engine rankings, and we'd be more than happy to discuss that with you further. But I just want to give you that really quick trick that you have the ability to move yourself higher up in the search engine rankings, and we can certainly help you with that if you're interested. Some people say to me, well, you know what, I'm not a consumer product, so no one's really going to go online and look for me. Well, not true, totally not true. Even for business-to-business customers or buyers, 70% of those buyers use a search engine at the start of their buying process to figure out if they want, who the competition is, who they should be considering, and are you on the first page, and therefore are you important enough? Do you have authority enough? Are you seen as an expert in order for them to click through and find out more about you? So they will do their homework, and they might even know your website better than you know it before they give you a phone call. So it's a really important thing to think about. So a couple of things, and then we'll wrap up and take a few quick questions after today's presentation. Do you need to think about updating or redoing your website? Would you like more traffic to your website to generate leads? So how can you think about doing that, or how can we help you make that happen through search engine optimization? Do you need better lead generation? When someone comes to your website, what do they see? Do they see a way to give you their email address? Do they see a phone number? Is your email address there? Do they have a way to contact you? All these things are really important. Or do they immediately leave your page because they got distracted by something that's not about your products at all? So think about those things. So in the scientific-based marketing area, some of the things you can think about is, are you sponsoring, publishing, and publicizing any studies that highlight your expertise? It doesn't have to be a Nature magazine. It doesn't have to be an 80-page white paper. It can just be a very short white paper done following a webinar or something like that. Are you doing any videos, any talks? Are you doing any special educational symposia? We have been doing a symposia now for the last couple of years, a one-day event for one of our clients. And every year out of that event, they get major new customers, and they get people saying, I learned so many things I never would have learned before if I hadn't come to this symposia to find out more about what the offering is here. You need to think about driving people to your website to read your great content. You need to think about speaking opportunities at major conferences, industry functions, or events. Should you be doing some guest columns or blog posts or press releases? Can we help you get quoted in the media or have you be served as a source for reporters and editors? So all of this may seem very overwhelming, but basically in the end what we do is we help you boil it down into a communication plan. So we're only focused on what's happening this week and thinking about what's happening next week, but there's always something happening to remind the world about your expertise and your science and how great you are. So what can you do? Again, this is a bit of a summary. You could do a webinar, panel, or panel webinar, maybe like with a customer, with a scientist, with yourself. podcasts, blog posts, poster competitions. We've done a number of poster competitions in our professional communities, and it's a great way for people to show you what they're thinking. You know, you get the community to vote on it. Maybe you give a prize for the winner, things like that. One mention about video tutorials. One of the things I didn't mention before, which is really important to think about, is you can read anything faster than you can listen to it. So I haven't read you this whole list because you long ago finished that whole list and you already know what it says. So what happens is on a website, if you put something in video format, it takes someone longer to watch it. Now, why would you want to make someone spend longer learning something than they could by reading it? Well, Google will give you credit and raise you up higher in the search engines if people spend longer time on your website. So thinking about customer testimonials, training videos, videos of you talking at an event, a webinar, all those things are really important to think about and to consider. So I'm at the end, and hopefully I didn't rush it too much, but I had so much I wanted to cover with everyone today just to get you to think about the two phases of both scientific-based marketing and relationship-based marketing. And if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. You can just stick them in the chat box. We have also posted a survey that we would love you to fill out to give us feedback on how we can provide more information that's useful for you in the future and how we can bring more things to market that would help you be successful and help position you as an expert and an authority figure in your area of science. I do see one question coming in now, and this is around the Signature Awards. So the question here is, for the Signature Awards, if I think my technology is applicable to multiple areas, how do I move forward with the Signature Award? Well, what you do is, if you think your technology is applicable to multiple areas, because we will have the subject matter experts themselves actually evaluate your technology and where it fits in the marketplace, we recommend that you submit to the different categories. Because if you, let's say, we have one technology we're working with now, and it's so phenomenal, it has applications in the area of oncology, but it also has applications in the area of drug safety, and in this case, liver toxicity. So, of course, those would be two totally different subject matter expert groups, and it's important that they each consider how this technology would fit in their area of science and in their area of the marketplace. So, great question. Thank you very much. Again, I'll encourage anyone to send in any other questions. Another question here is, basically they're asking, what about Facebook? So I didn't really take any time to talk about Facebook or Twitter or Google+. I mostly just talked about LinkedIn. Right now, Facebook is, I would say, not the #1 place that most people are going to share their scientific information. However, if your science has something that's very visual about it, it could be a great way for you to get people engaged, particularly if you would like to encourage people to take pictures of them using your science and then send it in, and again, maybe have a competition or have a contest or have people comment on it, or write the funniest caption you can to, about this picture, or write, how this picture made you think of something else. So you have to think about your audience, you have to think about your science and what you have to offer, and where is it most applicable. I really like the idea of Google+, and people are getting more and more involved in Google+, because Google+ is, of course, owned by Google. Everyone wants to be higher in the Google search engine rankings, and by participating in something like Google+, you will get a bit more credit from Google as you go forward. So that's something to think about. Here I'm just reminding everybody about this special offer if you went to the pep talk, and just want to make sure everyone has my personal information or my business information about how to reach me if you have any further questions. Just to finish the question about Twitter, Twitter is also really important to think about it. A lot of people are using Twitter more and more. Twitter is great, particularly if you're at an event and you want to tell people what's happening, and you can be seen then as a thought leader and as an expert, sharing with people things that are kind of like hot off the press and of the moment and really important. But Twitter goes away, so to speak, or doesn't stay at the top of everybody's list, whereas things like Facebook and LinkedIn and Google+ have a little bit more residual effect, so to speak, from that perspective. So that's one of the things to think about. But what I like to really emphasize is thinking about a year-long content strategy and how you can just do a few things and then turn them into the content for the rest of the year. So let's say you did 1 or 2, or sometimes people even do 4 or 5, 6 webinars throughout the year. And then we'll often take those webinars and turn them into white papers, turn those webinars into podcasts, turn those webinars into emails or newsletters, use it for the social media, post the podcast in social media, share the white papers through links and other things like that. So it's really great to think about it all from a continuous basis and then work with someone like ourselves who can help make that message so that it resonates with the customer, so that they understand it. Too often I find as scientists, we're perceived, let's put it this way, we're perceived as talking down to the customer. And the reason why we talk down is not because we intend to talk down, it's because we're smart about what we have to say, but we forget that they're not so smart about it. So we need to bring our talking and our speaking and our writing down a little bit so we make them feel comfortable, so we make them feel like we respect where they're starting at, and then we bring them up to our level of science. So we always try to work very hard to make sure that everything is simplified to the point that sort of a newbie in that area could understand it, because we know those who are very smart in that area will understand it as well, and they'll probably get even more insights out of what has been written or what has been shared. So there's a delicate balance between being too simple and being too sophisticated, and that's where we help you walk that line of being scientifically accurate and scientifically informative, but also communicating to people in a way that brings them into the fold rather than makes them feel like they're not invited into your community or into your camp or into your tribe, so to speak. So I think I've answered most of the questions that have come in, and since we're just at the top of the hour, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who joined us today and remind you to fill out the survey if you could, because we really appreciate your input as we move forward, and we try to help people transform their science into commercial success. So again, thank you for your time, and if you'd like to follow up with anything, I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions offline. Again, have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you out there on the internet. Take care. Bye now.